Welcome to What to Watch Wednesdays, hosted by someone's favorite film buff, Nathan. I love movies and I want to share that with you. From old originals to cult classics and foreign favorites, along with straight up drivel, WWW is your place for all things movies. Stick around and we'll leave you with a movie to watch over the weekend with your family or that special someone. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
88.1 The Burg, your movie central. Welcome to What to Watch Wednesdays. My name is Nathan, the host of What to Watch Wednesdays, the show where we talk about 3 movies all in the same night. Or so you thought was going to be the case tonight. That wasn't grammatically correct, but it doesn't really matter. Tonight on What to Watch Wednesdays, I have good news and I have bad news. The good news is, for the first time ever, that's right, for the very first time on What to Watch Wednesdays, I will not be talking about 3 movies. I will be talking about 6 movies tonight. Tonight, we're getting double for the price of 1. We're talking about 6 entire movies tonight. We're talking about a series of 6 movies that people have heard about before. I'm really excited for the concept that tonight we're talking about 6 movies. Wow, what a cool concept. That's the good news. What's the bad news? The bad news is that we're talking about the 6 Sharknado movies tonight on What to Watch Wednesdays. On the one hand, it's cool that I'm talking about 6 movies for the first time ever in the history of the show. On the other hand, it's the 6 Sharknado movies. So I am filled with an overwhelming sense of dread to go along with my excitement, which means that tonight is going to be a very hectic and crazy night. So might as well get it out of the way before we start. What 6 movies are on our watch list tonight? Let's go through them. First up, we have Sharknado from 2013. Next, we have Sharknado 2, the second one, from 2014. Next, we have Sharknado 3, Oh Hell No, from 2015. Next, we have Sharknado 4, The Fourth Awakens, from 2016. We have Sharknado 5, Global Swarming, from 2017. And the last Sharknado, It's About Time, from 2018. I almost said 2018 again. Listen, here's the deal. I have had a stressful week, I've had a very stressful quarter, and I figured what better way to unwind and relax than by talking about such stupid and horrible movies that I've seen before and don't need to do any amount of prep work for because I've seen them before. I didn't watch them all last week. I've seen them before. I don't need to rewatch them. Let's just do this. You may not be ready. I may not be ready. Nobody may be ready, but we're going to do it anyways because doggone it, I need this. So, stick around after the break, where we jump into the first Sharknado movie. 88.1 The Burg, your movie central. Welcome back to What to Watch Wednesdays. And for our first movie on the watch list tonight, we will be taking a look at Sharknado from 2013, available to watch now on Amazon with a Prime subscription. For the basic plot summary of Sharknado, we follow Finn, a bar owner in Los Angeles, as he must make his way across Los Angeles to save estranged members of his family, including his ex-wife, to save them from a tornado that is hitting Los Angeles. Wow, I feel like I over-explained that, but it doesn't sound like a bad plot on paper. You know, you have a tornado warning, you have a goal to get to, you have a main character. What's the problem? I'll tell you what the problem is. The tornado has sharks in it, and they just kind of accept the fact that there are sharks in this tornado, and they call it a Sharknado, and that's the name of the movie. You knew it was coming eventually. I'd have to address the massive elephant in the room, that this movie is about a tornado with sharks in it. And for a movie that has sharks in a tornado in it, you wouldn't be surprised to hear that they made a pun. Did you understand the pun already? Let me spoil it for you. The main character is called Finn. You get it? Like the fin of a shark? I will admit, when I first watched this movie and when I even saw reviews of it, I don't think I actually understood that that was a pun until it was spelled out for me. So I'll give him that. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention, or maybe I didn't care to look for puns. But it was at least not noticeable to me at first. A lot of other things are noticeable about this movie, though, namely the fact that it's not very good. You can imagine from a title like Sharknado that the movie isn't very good. But I will admit that the first Sharknado, unlike all the other movies that we're going to talk about tonight, or at least later down the line, for being a not good movie with a stupid concept and dumb execution with cheap visual effects, works as a so bad it's good movie. It absolutely does work as a, I'm going to watch this just for the giggles, for the let's have fun on a Saturday night. I'm really bored and really tired and I need to unwind. Somehow, let's watch the trashy movie as a family. Maybe not as a family because it's kind of violent, but as a group of friends or as just a person on your own, just wanting to yell at something for a little bit to relieve the stress of working in an office. Sharknado, you could do honestly a lot worse for so bad it's good. It's a really good example of so bad it's good. I'm being honest here. I think it honestly pulls off the so bad it is good thin line really, really well, which is not something you always see. Sometimes movies are just so bad they're bad. But Sharknado isn't one of those cases. Part of it has to do with the fact that the side characters don't exactly suck, but they're just there. At least they aren't grating or annoying. I can even remember them. We've got the bar girl Nova, we've got Baz, the Australian guy, and we've got George, the weird guy sitting at the bar, who is old and creepy. But he's not annoying, so there's that, and he dies pretty early on, which is a warning. I will be spoiling all of the plots of the Sharknado movies. If you really care, if you do, why do you care? Keep that in mind as we go forward. I will also admit that if I'm being honest, Finn as a main character, for a guy that you have to stick with through 6 entire movies of sharks in a tornado, they could have done a lot worse. The actor does a pretty good job at not being grating or annoying. He's just there, and he's mediocre. For how bad the visual effects are in this movie, and for how bad the visual effects get, and for how bad the writing is, honestly speaking, I'm surprised he isn't worse. I'm surprised he is tolerable. He's a decent enough anchor, ha-ha, ocean pun, for the movies that I can't exactly fault him at all. I can't complain about him. He's just there, and he's not annoying. So he's got maybe more things going for him than the movie itself does. I mean, positives here and there. For one, I mean, sure, the first Sharknado could be seen as a really good, so bad it's good movie. I will also apply that to the next movie on our watch list tonight, which will be Sharknado 2, the second one from 2014, which is also available to watch on Amazon with a Prime subscription. I should mention that I'm going to be talking about 2 each review because that's how I'm going to break it up, because we're talking about 6 of these. We kind of have to keep the pace moving a little bit. So let's jump into the plot of Sharknado 2, because in Sharknado 2, we follow Finn and his ex-wife, who is now dating him, April, as they go to New York. While they're flying there, a Sharknado happens. Oh dear, there's another Sharknado. Wow, who could have seen it coming in a second Sharknado movie? Oh dear. So then it starts off. Here's one thing I think I was trying to get to, but I had to switch movies when talking about the first Sharknado. Finn's the best character because he's not awful. The problem with the first Sharknado is that some of the side characters are a bit grating, and one of those grating side characters is his ex-wife, April. She's just there to create conflict for the sake of creating conflict, and it's in that hack-eyed, lazy, unexperienced writer way where they just throw a woman in there who's the ex-wife, who's just there to complain the entire time and doesn't really contribute anything. I'll give her credit. She eventually turns into not that by the time the second movie rolls around. There is a decent evolution there. Of course, part of it also has to do with the fact that her hand gets bitten off and it gets replaced with a mini chainsaw. That should be another thing I should have mentioned with the first movie, but I just have to manage this here because 6 movies is a lot to handle in a show that's usually built for 3. So follow me here. Finn is not a bad character, but he is kind of just there so that the writers can throw in different forms of chainsaws. In the first movie, he jumps into a flying shark and uses a chainsaw to cut it open. In the second movie, they start to lean into the chainsaw angle a little bit more, and now he just has a chainsaw with him, and that's like his main weapon of choice, and he cuts a flying shark in half. It's so goofy and weird. And then his wife, who he then becomes his wife because he reproposes to her, whatever. April, his love interest, has her hand replaced by a mini chainsaw. That was an intentional choice. He wanted to make Finn like his wife again by giving her a chainsaw hand. I don't know exactly what this is supposed to say thematically, because need I remind you, this is a series about tornadoes with sharks in them. Why do you need the running gag to be chainsaws? You have tornadoes with sharks in them. That should be your draw. It honestly speaks to me more like they ran out of ideas with the tornado with sharks in them and had to come up with a bunch of other stupid ideas to throw in there. And that kind of accentuates the fact that maybe they just shouldn't have gone with Sharknadoes in the first place if they couldn't come up with enough funny ideas to sustain that idea alone. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's both really funny and kind of frustrating when looking at it in retrospective and in a big picture sense of the word. I'm already starting to lose it, which is not a good sign because we have 4 other movies to talk about. But we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll jump into the 3rd Sharknado movie. Stick around. Welcome back to What to Watch Wednesdays. And for our 3rd movie on the watch list tonight, we will be taking a look at Sharknado 3. Oh, hell no. My sentiments exactly. From 2015, available to watch on Amazon with a subscription. For the basic plot summary of Sharknado 3, Finn and his family are at Universal Studios, and then a Sharknado happens. So they are attacked at Universal Studios, and then near the end of the movie, they go to space. And can I say anything more? No. Okay. Now I need to address something else. Another elephant in the room. I hope you guys don't think I went into these movies expecting a genius plot or something like that. I did not go into the movies Sharknado expecting the plot to be good. Okay? I want to clarify that right now when I say that, honestly, the plots fall off after the 3rd movie starts. What do I mean by that? Well, let me spell it out a little more clearly. I wasn't expecting genius plots, but I was expecting a possibly illogical way of tying things together. A possibly illogical way of tying the set pieces together. That is a very low bar to reach. And let me tell you, after the 3rd movie, they don't have a possibly illogical way of tying them together. They might pretend like they do, but they don't. Especially this one. Reading it back, I'm just remembering how it felt so disconnected to go from Universal Studios to space. And if you argue that it's because the Universal logo is the planet Earth and the opening crawl is from space, so that implies they're going to space, then I would say that is actually a very good point. I didn't think about that. But at the same time, it's still scraping the very bare minimum of a possibly illogical way of connecting everything. So it's got that, a slightly illogical thing. This is coming off the backbone of the last 2 movies, where at least the first one, for as flawed as it was, had the basic idea of main character, obstacle, go here, get my family, get out of this disaster situation, and it just so happened to be a tornado with sharks in it. The second one was just, let's go to New York. Okay, we're in New York, here's a Sharknado. Third one is, hey, we're in Universal Studios. Here's the Sharknado. Let's go to space, there's a Sharknado. You see the difference there? I know, again, I'm not expecting the world here. I'm just saying, I'm going to move on. Let's see here. Oh, yes. This is the one where they do go to space, and they have the lightsaber chainsaw. You heard me correctly. In Sharknado, they have a lightsaber chainsaw in space, and it's a Star Wars reference. How funny. How funny. Oh, in this one, they also had a miniature golden chainsaw that was given to Finn by the President of the United States for stopping Sharknadoes. And he uses it to fight off the Sharknadoes at the beginning with the President of the United States. I will admit, I'll give them credit as much as I ragged on these writers for using Finn as an excuse to come up with dumb ideas for new, illogical chainsaws. The escalation from a golden chainsaw given to him by the president to a lightsaber chainsaw is a funny escalation. I will give them that. At the very least, I'm trying to be nice. I'm trying to be nice. I'm trying so hard to be nice. Here's how I'm not going to be nice. Let's move on from being nice and acknowledge the fact that we meet Finn's dad in this movie, who has the rocket ship that allows them to get to space. And guess what his name is? His name is Gil. Ha! Finn and Gil, like on a shark, on a fish. Help me, please. How can you help me, please? Oh, I acknowledge the fact that the chainsaws were a funny escalation. That doesn't mean they did it better than Evil Dead 2. Anyways, now that I've gotten that out of my way, please understand that I'm starting to dissociate while reviewing these movies, and that is accurate to how it felt watching these movies, especially getting up to the third one, where I actively just started disassociating and disengaging from the movies at certain points in time, where I just like kind of forget that the last 5 minutes of the movie had happened and just keep watching the rest of it. And that definitely applied to when we get to the next movie called Sharknado 4, the fourth movie on our watch list tonight, Sharknado 4, The Fourth Awakens from 2016, available to watch on Amazon with a Prime subscription. The basic plot summary of Sharknado 4, The Fourth Awakens, is not a Star Wars parody. It is not a Star Wars parody. They go to Las Vegas, and then Finn gets a farm in the country, and his wife April is dead, but is turned into a cyborg. She's a cyborg. Okay. So, The Fourth Awakens, despite the fact that the title looks a lot like The Force Awakens, is not even remotely a Star Wars parody. Do you understand how much that makes me angry? Because the last movie had the lightsaber chainsaw, and that wasn't a Star Wars parody, but this one could have been a Star Wars parody, and they didn't put the lightsaber chainsaw in it. I'm kind of mad that even on a bare bones level of parody, Sharknado 4 can't even do that right. What they can do is they're able to come up with a bunch of new, dumb ideas for tornadoes, because again, the writers are so stupid, and I mean that in the nicest way possible, and that is just my opinion, not factually statement. In my opinion, they are kind of stupid people, that they have to come up with multiple other variations of a dang Sharknado to make it interesting. Let's go over all of the things that show up. We have the Sandnado, the Hailnado, the Bouldernado, the Oilnado, the Firenado, the Lightningnado, the Nuclearnado. We have a Lavanado, we have a Safarinado, and we have the Cownado. Okay. All of those were just the sharks in a tornado, but they have sand, hail, boulders, oil, fire, lightning, nuclear. We have lava. We have a safari animal one. We have cows. We have cows. How fun. How fun. You know what makes this excusable? Only one thing could possibly make this excusable in any way, shape, or form, to me at least. And that is the fact that they have a news reporter in this movie. They have a news reporter who announces to people, hey, there's a Safari-nado and a Lava-nado and a Cow-nado. And this news reporter is named Ron McDonald. And he's played by the late great actor Gilbert Gottfried. Can you imagine how funny it is watching the one and only voice of Iago from Aladdin be in the front of a news van yelling about a lava-nado in his own nasally little voice? Can you imagine how funny that is? It was so funny. It makes it almost worth watching. And when I say almost, I mean barely. Because keep in mind, despite the fact that there was like over 7 different types of Sharknado in this movie, that doesn't mean I was paying more attention to it because of it. I was still dissociating, and what basically snapped me back into consciousness was going, oh, they came up with a new idea for a different Sharknado. Look at that. I wasn't expecting them to go in that direction. Cows. How creative, guys. If you wanted to make a movie about cows in a tornado, just make a movie about cows in a tornado. Make a parody off of Twister. It's not that hard. Oh, geez Louise. I'm getting even more hysterical. So now is a good time for a break. We're going to come back soon after the break with the last two movies on our watch list tonight. See you soon. 88.1 The Burg, your movie central. Welcome back to What to Watch Wednesdays. And for the fifth movie on our watch list tonight, we will be taking a look at Sharknado 5, Global Swarming from 2017, available to watch now on Amazon with a Prime subscription. Before we get into the plot summary, let me point out that for the last three movies, I'd say, I think starting with Sharknado 2 and continuing on in 3 and 4 and then 5, there have always been these opening title cards that have been animated in some way with a fun little ditty that is an original song for the Sharknado series. All of them are creative and interesting, and the opening title crawl for Sharknado 5 is my favorite. I think it's the best one. That's something I just wanted to throw it out there. The only good thing about these movies consistently is the opening titles where they have a little fun theme song for Sharknado, which is go, 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 run away from the Sharknado. It's your greatest foe, foe, foe. I'm not making up those lyrics. If you don't believe me, highly recommend looking up the song. There is a song, and it goes something like that. So it's not a masterpiece, but it's darn well better than a lot of the other stuff in these movies, so I'm going to take it. Anyways, what's the plot of Sharknado 5? Well, you see, we have Nova, who is an employee of Finn in the first movie. She's a bartender girl. And throughout the rest of the next movies, she kind of dips in and out. So in the fifth movie, it opens with her being in Stonehenge and trying to find an artifact beneath Stonehenge that will stop all Sharknadoes from happening because she is the leader of the Sharknado Sisterhood, a global conspiratorial secret society of women dedicated to stopping the spread of the Sharknadoes because she hates sharks just that darn much. I wish I was kidding, but let me be honest, the moment you start bringing in secret societies into the Sharknado franchise, it's kind of where you lose me a bit in terms of investment, as if I wasn't already lost enough. Oh, ye of little faith, those who think they can't lose their minds even more, you can always stoop lower. Anyways, what happens in Sharknado 5 that I could say has any possible worthy of noteness to it? That was not grammatically correct. I don't care. Well, I mean, they have the Pope in Sharknado 5. Yes, the actual Pope. No, I can't confirm that it was the actual Pope. But they bring in the Pope as a character in the movie. And the Pope gives Finn, our main character, a chainsaw that it looks like a battle sword, but it's a chainsaw. And when he presses a button, it shoots off rays of holy light that take out every shark surrounding him and could destroy his Sharknado. That was just a real sentence I said and wasn't even half inaccurate. It works that way. It's the magical Pope chainsaw. Again, like I said, this is the part where I kind of backtrack on my statement of them not doing as good of a job as Evil Dead 2 did with the chainsaw thing. That's kind of funny. That's a lot funnier than what they did with the chainsaw in Evil Dead 2. The only difference is that Finn doesn't say groovy when he uses the chainsaw in the Sharknado movies. Maybe he does, but he's not Bruce Campbell, so that's the kind of distinguishing factor. He's not Bruce Campbell saying groovy with a chainsaw, so that's different. Tangent. What happens in this movie? Oh yes, there are Sharknadoes that spread all across the world because it's called global swarming, if you couldn't tell. Maybe that's a commentary on global warming. I wouldn't worry about it. It's not that deep. It's Sharknado. For having the main gimmick be, hey, there are Sharknadoes all over the world, I kind of forgot that there were Sharknadoes all over the world. And I forgot I was blissfully unaware until I was reminded when looking it up that this movie had what they call the Sharkzilla, where they get a bunch of sharks and they radiate them, and it forms the shape of a giant shark, and it's an irradiated giant shark made up of a bunch of tiny sharks. And it's called Sharkzilla, and that annoys me to my very core as a fan of Godzilla. I'm not even joking. That's really stupid. Somehow I forgot all of that in favor of the fact that I was remembering, oh yes, this is the one where just everybody but Finn dies. This is the one where they just were like, let's just throw caution to the wind and let the wind be sucked up into a Sharknado outside and just kill off every major character. Why? Because we're bad at writing. We're very bad at writing. That's my opinion. But I mean, who's going to disagree with me that it's an objective fact that the writers of Sharknado are bad at writing? Let's prove it right now by going into the 6th movie. Sharknado, the last Sharknado, the last movie on our watch list, the 6th Sharknado, which is called The Last Sharknado. It's About Time. From 2018, available to watch on Amazon Prime with a subscription. So, Finn is visited by his son, an older version of his son, who he had over the course of these movies, who I didn't remember to mention because he wasn't important. Anyways, now he's important. His son comes to him and goes, Dad, we need to use the Sharknados to time travel. We're going to go back in time using the Sharknados and stop the Sharknados from ever happening. It's about time. Do you get the meaning of the title now? The movie is about time travel. And it's Sharknado, it's about time. This movie's a 0 out of 10 in my book. Big shocker, but this movie I'd categorize as a 0 out of 10. If you can imagine, here's the problem. Here's the biggest problem with Sharknado 6. I'm not going to call it The Last Sharknado. I'm going to call it Sharknado 6. For some reason, they decided to absolutely mess with the audience in every conceivable way they could by making the end of this movie be that they stop the Sharknados from ever happening. You know what that means? We get transported back to the first movie at the end of this movie. Again, I'm spoiling it. I do not care. The end of this movie erases all Sharknados from existence. It says, Sharknados never happened. That wasn't a real thing. That never happened. You made me watch 6 movies and then erased it at the end. I'm furious at this. Honestly, it annoyed me to my core. You couldn't have just let a good thing be and had it be the weirdly unsatisfying but satisfying at the same time ending of killing off all the major characters except for Finn at the end of Sharknado 5. You just had to undo everything, didn't you? You had to undo all of my progress I made watching all 6 of these movies. How dare you? That annoys me. And that's not even the worst part. The worst part is that the sharks aren't even memorable. I remember the dinosaurs more in this movie. There were dinosaurs, because of course there were. I also remember the fact that Finn was kissing the disembodied head of his cyborg wife in the middle of a tornado more than the fact that there were sharks in the literal tornado he's doing it in. So many problems. So very many problems. I mean, just from the core issue of why would the writers of Sharknado know how to do a time travel plot? I think, if I'm being honest, here's where I want to end tonight's show. I could say so much more. I've said so much more. I could go on and on. I've gone on and on. But here's what you need to understand. Part of my anger doesn't just come with the movies themselves. If I'm speaking subjectively, only the 6th movie was really the one that angered me all that much. The rest of them were still enjoyable to some degree. Even Sharknado 5 with its dumb ideas, with Sharknado 4 for not being a Star Wars parody, for Sharknado 3 being called quite literally, oh hell no, and summing up my feelings towards the series entirely, for Sharknado 2 for being just set in New York for some reason, and for Sharknado 1 for existing in the first place. All of them had some level of enjoyment in them and how stupid they were. Sharknado 6 was not that. It infuriated me because it wasn't enjoyable. It was so bad. It was bad. Now, my emotions with these movies come from the movies themselves. Yes. But I'd be lying if I didn't acknowledge the fact that part of the reason I don't like these movies so much is because I watched them with two of my friends who I am no longer friends with. And to have the last movie be the thing that erases what feels like erases all of my progress with these movies. And then, not even a year later, I'd say, have that friendship go through a very tumultuous time and eventually result in me not talking to those people anymore doesn't exactly make the investment of time I spent on watching all 6 of these doggone movies worth it. I hope you can understand where I'm coming from when I explain that to you. It wasn't fun to confront the fact that I wasn't friends with those people anymore. And we'd wasted our time watching Sharknado, of all things. That's the show. Thank you all for listening in to What to Watch Wednesdays. There will not be an episode of What to Watch Weekends this Saturday from 8 to 10 p.m. here on 88.1 The Burg. I'm going to be taking a break this week, which I definitely desperately need if you couldn't tell. Anyways, I will be back next Wednesday from 8 to 9 p.m. for another episode of What to Watch Wednesdays. If you're interested in following along with either What to Watch Wednesdays or What to Watch Weekends, follow What to Watch Wednesdays at What to Watch Wednesdays, no, all one word, no caps, no spaces, on both Instagram and YouTube. I will be back next Wednesday telling you all what to watch. Good night, everybody.